Okay, so in our lessons, we are going to use the grade 7 workbook and the grade 7 activity book, right? So I hope you might be having something similar to this, right? So this is the workbook for grade 7, right? So these are the lessons or the units we are going to learn. And next you have the pupils book. I think the pupils book, this is only the first unit which you can see. So we will go through small activities day by day. We are not going to cover a large content per one day. And also I will be having these lessons in English, but in case if any of you cannot follow it, or if you need me to explain in Sinhala, you can ask me so that maybe I can help you in that way. But since it is English, I would like all of you to actively engage using English so that it will be a good experience for you to improve your English, right? So today, as the first activity, we will start from the pupils book. So I hope all of you have the pupils book. So can you let me know whether you have the pupils book with you? Maybe
My pupils book.
you have, right? Right. So I hope you know that in this Zoom, there is some option like raising your hands. Under reactions, you have raised your hands. So maybe sometimes I might ask you questions. So maybe if I ask you to raise your hand, if it is not possible for you to unmute, it is okay. You can even give me that reaction raise hand so that I know that you are following me properly, right? Okay, so we will start the first activity, right? So in the pupils book, you might have gone through this. This is unit 1. And under unit 1, what we are going to do today first is going to be the activity 1, right? So what is unit 1? What you see, right? So first activity we are going to do now. So if you have your books, I think all of you have books, you can turn to this page, right? So in activity 1, what do we have is an act out. So what we are going to learn from this activity, right? So there are something called learning objectives. That means when we are doing a particular activity, we should know why we are doing this activity, right? So it is not related only to English, but whenever you are learning something, you should know why you are doing this, right? So this activity 1, the act out, the objective of this act out is that the students will be able to read some text properly, right? So I will just take a slide so that you will understand this better. Okay, so here you can see we have, as I said, we can say, call it as learning objectives, or else we can say learning outcomes. So what you are going to learn from this activity, right? So students, that means all of you will be able to read different types of text accurately and meaningfully, right? So what you are going to learn is to read, right? Read some text, but it is not simply reading. You should read accurately. What do you mean by accurately? That means you are not making mistakes, but you are reading properly and meaningfully. So what do you mean by meaningfully? That means in any text, when we are reading something, there is some meaning. So we need to read it so that the person who is listening to us will get the proper meaning. So this is what you should be able to do once we complete this activity, right? And also there is another outcome. It is students will be able to find specific information. That means you are going to find different information from the given texts and you are going to answer some questions, right? So that is the main outcomes which we are going to achieve from this activity 1. So first thing which we are going to do is to read, right? So now we will see what you need to focus when you are reading, right? So here I have given you some information or some things which you need to remember when reading, right? So we cannot read something as we want, right? So we have to make sure that we do these things when we are reading, right? So first thing is, whenever we are going to read something, we should read it silently by ourselves to get what is the meaning of this text, right? So I cannot read something properly if I do not know what is the message which is going to be passed from that text to the listener. So that is why we first need to read it silently and get the meaning, right? And then we need to note the punctuation marks. So what are these punctuation marks? I hope you might know. So whenever we take a text, you might know whenever we are ending a sentence, we have a full stop. And then maybe when we are differentiating, when we want to segregate or when we want to have more than one things which are listed, we are using commas, right? So I will just go to this. You can see here in this sentence, you have a full stop. Here you have an exclamation mark. Here you have a comma. So likewise, we have different punctuation marks. So for different punctuation marks, the way which we are going to read is going to be different, right? So that is why you need to note the punctuation marks. And the third one is divide the sentences or the questions into meaningful chunks. So what do we mean by chunks? A chunk means a small part, right? So let's assume I have one sentence. That sentence, I cannot read it as continuously, right? So we will have to divide it into meaningful small parts. And then if I read it properly, I'm going to hear it, right? Right. Okay. So sorry, I had a small disconnection. So there was some network failure. So now it's okay. I hope all of you can hear me. So we will continue with what we have been discussing, right? So the third one, I think you were there with me when I was explaining the first 2 points. So we will move on to the third one, that is dividing the sentence or the question into meaningful small parts, right? So that is why I said when we have a long sentence, I cannot read it continuously. We need to have a break. So that is why we say we have to divide the sentence or the question into meaningful parts. So dividing it in a meaningful manner is also really important.
Excuse me, madam.
Yes.
Madam, අපිට power cut එකක් මේ router එක off වුණත් recording එක දානවා.
Oh, recording එක upload කරනවා. හරි නේද?
හරි madam, thank you.
හරි, okay. Right. And then the fourth point, right? So what is the fourth point? change the vocal tone to suit the content. So what do you mean by this vocal tone? Vocal tone means the variation of my voice. So even now when I'm reading these things and when I'm speaking to you, I hope you can see that I'm not talking in the same voice. I'm changing the voice. So why do we change that voice? So that the listener will understand what I'm reading properly, right? And the final point is ensure maintaining a suitable speed for the listener to understand, right? So what do we mean by this is, we are not talking about reading by myself. Here, what we are talking is that we are reading to a different person. So you are the reader and there will be a listener. So the person who is listening to you should be able to understand what you are saying. So in that case, you need to maintain a suitable speed. That means you should not be speaking very fast, as well as you should not be speaking very slow. You should need to balance your speed, right? So these are the main things which you need to remember when you are reading, right? So now I think all of us are ready to go to the activity 1, right? So I will take the textbook, right? So this is the pupil's book. I think all of you have it. So what is the first principle I told you? Now we are going to read it. So when we are going to read, I said, first, we need to read it by ourselves, right? So maybe you might have read this part earlier as well, but before reading it, I will give you 5 minutes so that you can read it by yourself and try to understand, right? So it has only a few sentences or questions. It is actually a dialogue. What do we mean by a dialogue? That means it is a discussion, or two or more people are talking to each other, right? So here you can see there is someone called Venura, Rajan, and then Sandria and Kavisha. So likewise, there are few kids who are talking to each other in this dialogue, right? So let's take 5 minutes, take your book and read this by yourself and keep everything I told you, right? So try to break the long sentences into meaningful parts, and then you need to consider the punctuation marks, and then you need to read it at the correct speed. So likewise, keep remembered all the things I mentioned and take 5 minutes to read, and then we will read it, right? So now starts your time. Take 5 minutes. Right. Okay. So I hope all of you had enough time to read, right? So let's start with reading, right? So maybe for the first time, I will read and show you how we are going to read few sentences. But I would like 4 of you to read this, because here in this dialogue, we have 4 students. One is Venura, one is Rajan, one is Sandria, and then Kavisha, right? So I would like 4 of you to read it later, right? So I will just read few sentences. I will not be reading everything, but I will read few, right? So first, I will just show you, this is simply a text. It is not related to dialogue or such. So we may not need to express a lot of feelings there, right? But when we are reading something which has been said by someone else, we need to have a lot of feelings according to the sentence which they are telling, right? So first, this one, I will read it, right? It's Saturday afternoon. Sandria and her friends are out in the garden, right? So now you can see it is simply a sentence which does not have a lot of feelings. So in that case, the change of my voice will not be a lot, right? But when I'm going to read a dialogue, right? So let's see Venura, what he is going to say, right? So listen carefully. Hi, Rajan. We've been waiting for you, right? So you might notice that it is not the same way that we are reading a simple text, right? And then I will read the second one, the answer of Rajan. Hi, everybody. There's something wrong with my bicycle, right? So did you notice in this Rajan is telling that there is something wrong. So he's worried about his bicycle. So we will have to have that feeling when we are reading that part, right? And the next one, answer by Venura. Why? What's wrong? Right? So it is a question. Here you have 2 questions. So in that case, we need to change the vocal tone for the listener to know that this is a question, right? So let's assume I simply read, why, what's wrong, with no feelings at all, right? So then it is not going to be effective to the listener, right? And I will read another sentence, maybe this one, Rajan, right? Because here you can see there are commas. It is a long sentence, right? Yes, I must. By the way, I have to leave a little early today, right? So now you can see when I have a long sentence and here I have a comma, we will have to stop for a little bit and then only to read the remaining part, right? Okay. So these are the main things which you might need to know when we are going to read this. So would 4 of you like to take each of these kids' position and try reading? I think we have 5 of you. So any 4 of you, you can raise your hand if anyone of you like to join to read it. Okay, thank you. So we have 2, Vitulya and Ishini, and any 2 of you from the remaining 3? Okay, it's okay for today. So we have Vitulya and Ishini. So you two can take whatever the character you like, and maybe the remaining two I will read for today, right? So we will get used to this, and then all of you can join in reading this. So Vitulya, which character you would like to take?
I like to take Venura teacher.
Okay, good. And Ishini?
I like to take Sandria.
Sandria, right. Okay. So Vitulya will be Venura and Ishini will be Sandria, and I will take Rajan and Kavisha, right? Okay. So Vitulya, shall we start?
Hi Rajan, we've been waiting for you.
Hi everybody. There's something wrong with my bicycle.
Why? What's wrong?
I don't know. Maybe it's the chain.
Why don't you take it to a mechanic?
Yes, I must. By the way, I have to leave a little early today.
Why is that?
I have to give a speech on Monday.
Oh, what's it about?
It's about my school. I have to prepare for it. All right, friends, what's new today?
I've got something to show you.
It is a new magic trick.
No, it's not.
What's it then, Venura?
Well, I'm gonna shake the water in this bottle.
Aha, then something like a tornado is made. Do you know this trick? Yes, I learned it from Navindu.
Oh, great.
I need a glass of water and a piece of cardboard. Right, okay, that went really well. So thank you, Vitulya and Ishini. Both of you did very well. So I hope from next time we will have few more students who will join with us, right? So more you do this kind of exercises, more you will get used to doing reading better, right? Okay, so that is our activity 1, right? And in our learning outcomes, I told you that we have 2 learning outcomes. First one was to read meaningfully. And the second learning outcome is to extract information from the text and answer some questions, right? So now we are going to do the second part, right? So here, if you go to your second page, you will see you are given 6 questions, right? And you are supposed to answer the given questions, right? So what are the 6 questions, right? So first one is, when did the friends meet? Second one, where did they meet? Third one, who are the friends? Fourth one, who came late? Fifth one, what did Venura show his friends? Sixth one, what is Kavisha going to do? Right? So these are the 6 questions. So whenever I was reading the questions, maybe some of you already got the answers, right? So we will take few minutes. I will give you few minutes. Try these 6 questions. Try to come up with the answers, and then we will discuss, right? So since these are not quite difficult, maybe we will try to finish it off by 6 minutes, 1 minute for one question. So Your time starts now. Take 6 minutes and answer these questions, and then we will discuss. Okay, so I hope you might have answered the questions. So shall we discuss the answers, right? So I would like, if you know the answer for the first question, can you raise hands? Right, okay. I can see Vitulya has raised her hand. So Vitulya, would you like to share the answer for the first question?
On Saturday afternoon.
Right, yes, good. Thank you. So the first question is, when did the friends meet? Right? So when we have this word when, what do we mean by it? It is we are asking for the duration. That means at what time, in which date these friends met, right? So it is always related to a time, right? So if you see the word when, it is always referring to a duration, right? And one thing which I would like to tell you here is when we are answering this kind of a question, I would like you to give the full answer, right? I did not mention it because I just wanted to see how we are going to answer. So the first question, when did the friends meet, right? So when we have this question, if we are going to give the answer, we need to give it in a full sentence, right? So I have given here the full answer, right? Friends met in Saturday afternoon, right? So whenever someone is asking a question, it is always good for us to give the answer, or rather give the answer in a full sentence, right? So friends met in Saturday afternoon, right? So yes, Vitulya, your answer is correct, right? And then we can move on to the second question, right? So who would like to give the answer for this question? Right, okay, I can see 3 hands. Good, we are improving. Okay, so maybe Kalani, would you like to give the answer for the second question?
In the garden.
Sorry, Kalani, I didn't hear you.
Teacher, in the garden.
In the garden, right?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, right. Okay, good. So again, I'm going back to the second question in my presentation. So where did they meet? So whenever we see this word where, it is referring to the place, right? So earlier question was when. So that is, when did they meet? So that is a time. And here it is the place. So where did they meet? The answer should be they met in the garden, right? So yes, your answer is correct. And then we will go to the third question. Who are the friends? Yes, their hands, we have 3. So chance to Ishini. Yes.
Rajan, Venuga, Sandria, Kavisha are the friends.
Right, good. Okay, so we will move on to the third question. Who are the friends? So what do we mean by the word who? We are asking who are the people or who are the persons in this conversation. So who are the friends who got together in this discussion? So you can give the answer as friends are Sandria, Venura, Rajan, and Kavisha. There were 4 friends, right? Okay, so we will move on to the 4th question. Who came late? Okay, who came late? Okay, so if you know the answer, can you raise your hands? Okay, I can see 2 of you have raised your hands. Pramila Ashen, would you like to try, even though you have not raised your hand? If you like to try, would you like to try the answer? Okay, so anyone else? Right, Ishini, yes, you can answer.
Rajan came late.
Right, very good. So the question is again, who? Is it Rajan or Kavisha? I have made it Kavisha. So where do we have the answer for this? I'm just looking for it. Yes, it's Rajan, right? So it is here. So it's my mistake, right? So yes, correct, Ishini. So it's Venura says, we've been waiting for you, right? So that means Rajan has been late, right? Okay, so I'm wrong. So Rajan came late. Yes, so Ishini gave the answer correctly. Right, and then if we are moving on to the 5th question, what did Venura show his friends? What did Venura show his friends? Okay, we have Vitulya. Yes, you can try.
He made a tornado by shaking the water in the bottle.
Right, okay, let's see. So what did Venura show his friends? Yes, Venura showed a tornado by shaking the water in a bottle. So you can use either Venura or, as Vitulya correctly said, so as Vitulya correctly said, you can use he showed as well, right? So what did Venura? We know we are already talking about Venura. So in that case, you can either write Venura or else you can also say he showed a tornado by shaking the water in a bottle, right? So good. And we are moving to the last question, and we are in the last minute of our lesson. What is Kavisha going to do? Who knows the answer? Right, maybe Ishini?
Kavisha is going to do a magic trick.
Let's see. Yes, he's going to do a trick, right? Yes, so what is Kavisha going to do? Kavisha is going to try the trick using a glass of water and a piece of cardboard, right? So it is okay, the answer you gave is correct. He is going to try the trick, right? So now you can see, I told you that from this activity, you are going to learn how to extract different information, right? So from these 6 questions, you were able to extract different informations at different places in the dialogue we read, right? So we learned about what is when, what is where, what is who, and what is what. So we need to identify the question properly so that we can find the answer, right? So to end today's lesson, right? So to end today's lesson, I will go back to the learning outcomes, right? So these are the learning outcomes I told you. So we said that we will learn to read accurately and meaningfully. Yes. So I think 3 of you joined with me to read, and all of you who read, actually you are good. You are reading accurately and you are reading meaningfully, right? And the second learning outcome was to find specific information. That means the informations which are asked from us. When, where, what, who. So we found those specific information for those questions from the texts, right? So from these 2 activities, I hope now you have a good understanding of how to read meaningfully and accurately, as well as how to find different informations according to the question, right? So with this, we will have to end today's session. So I hope you enjoyed it, right? So I would like all of your participation, even in the future classes, so that you will learn well as we will get to know each other well as well, right? So we will end the session for today, and we will meet again Wednesday, right? So thank you and good night to all of you.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you,
You're-
teacher.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night, teacher.
Good night.